Football is a time sport. The team with the most points at the end of the time period wins the game. Games are timed to be 1 hour long, but they are divided into 4 15-minute quarters that are separated by a 12-minute break in the middle, called the halftime. The first 2 quarters are called the first half. The next 2 quarters after the halftime break are called the second half. Both the first and the second half begins with a kickoff, where one team kicks the ball to the other team to begin the next series of play. Teams also change which side of the field they are defending at the beginning of each quarter. This is done to mitigate any advantages a team may have due to severe weather. If wind, rain, or snow is blowing in one team's face, at the beginning of the next quarter, the wind, rain, or snow will be blowing in the other team's face. Even the sun in the team's eyes can affect a team's performance. So when teams switch sides at the beginning of a quarter, they get to enjoy the advantages or suffer through the disadvantages of the weather that particular Sunday. The offense, which is the team that has the ball, has 40 seconds from the end of one play until they have to start the next play. This is called the snap of the ball. If they cannot snap the ball before the 40-second play clock gets to zeros, the team with the ball will be penalized and move back 5 yards. Let's talk about the clock. The legendary NFL coach Vince Lombardi once said, "We didn't lose the game, we just ran out of time." Time means everything during the game. Often you will hear talk of the players and the coach managing the clock. This means that they are trying to use every second of play to their advantage. The play clock is the timer which counts down the amount of time the offense has to begin the play by snapping the ball. You may hear the snap referred to as hiking the ball, but don't be confused, this means the same thing. After a play is finished and the ball has been placed in its new location, the referee will start the play clock. At that point, the team with the ball, again known as the offense, has 40 seconds to snap the ball. This includes any time it takes the offense to get together and huddle up, meaning they gather together to figure out what their next play will be. Teams also use this time to substitute one or more players. Often during the play clock countdown, you will see different players running on and off the field. The offense must take their positions in the decided formation and hike the ball all within this 40-second time span. If the offense is unable to hike the ball prior to the play clock expiring, they will be penalized with a delay of game, and the penalty for this violation is a loss of 5 yards, meaning they will be moved 5 yards back towards their own end zone that they are defending. Now, 5 yards may not seem like a lot, but that 5 yards can mean a world of difference. After all, each inch gained by the offense is hard fought, and nobody wants to be pushed back after gaining yards. The play clock is an important part of football because it keeps the game moving along at a steady pace. Without the play clock, winning teams could stall the game. In fact, teams with a lead will typically try to use as much of the play clock as possible, especially if the game clock is also running. Time management is an important part of football, and managing the play clock is part of that. It is one of the responsibilities of the quarterback to ensure that the ball is hiked prior to the play clock expiring. If the clock is about to expire, a team will call timeout to prevent the penalty. The clock stops at the end of incomplete passing plays, when a player goes out of bounds, or when a penalty is called. The clock starts again when the ball is respotted by an official. If a game is tied at the end of regulation, a 15-minute overtime period will be played. The play clock is also known as the delay of game timer, and that's really all it is. It's not the official game time. The stadium game clock is the official timekeeper for the game. If the stadium game clock is operating incorrectly, a referee called the line judge takes over the official timing on the field. The game clock keeps the official time for the game. It is set to 15 minutes at the beginning of each quarter. It is also used to time the 12-minute halftime break between the first and the second half of play. The game clock is wholly separate from the play clock. The game clock stops when a player goes out of bounds, when a penalty is called, and if a timeout is called by a player or the coach. The clock starts again when the ball is respotted by an official. It also stops at the 2-minute warning. The 2-minute warning is a break that comes at the end of the first and second halves. This lets the teams know that the end of the first half of play is drawing to a close. And during the second half, it lets the teams know that the game is drawing to a close. If a game is tied at the end of regulation time, which is the end of all 4 quarters, a 15-minute overtime period is played. In the NFL, the first possession of the ball during the overtime period is determined by a coin toss, just like at the beginning of the game. In the current NFL rules, the first team to score a touchdown during overtime ends the game, and that team wins the game. If neither team can score a touchdown, they can still score points by kicking field goals, but that will not end the game, and the game will continue until the 15-minute overtime period has ended. If the teams are still tied at the end of the overtime period, the game is ruled a tie. Now that you've learned about the game format, let's talk about how teams win games by scoring points.